got to pop it up at about 1,200.
About 1,200, yeah.
Ralph Monhay was born in 1935 in Edmonton, Alberta. As a young man, he met Dick Brooks, the announcer at Haney Speedway in Vancouver, where he introduced him to his first race, and he was hooked. Ralph raced at PGARA Prince George, Western Speedway, Haney Speedway, Langley and Spokane Fairgrounds, as well as tracks in Meridian, Idaho, Edmonton, Alberta, Salt Lake City, Utah, and Portland, Oregon. Ralph has had a great racing career. He ran local tracks in the Vancouver area before the beginning of CAMRA, Canadian American Modified Racing Association, which ran from 1963 to 1984. He raced CAMRA until 1977 and continued to promote racing until racing retirement in 1980. He finished in the top 10 in points 11 times as either a driver or crew chief. The only person to finish more times in a top 10 was his friend George Robertson from Lewiston, Idaho. Ralph was the winning crew chief in 1972 and served on the board most of his time at CAMRA. Ralph reconnected with the coupe he built in 1963 when it was listed on eBay and purchased by Dave Dowler. Dave and Ralph became friends through this purchase, and the coupe returned to him in 2003. Restoration was complete in 2008. Dave is now Ralph's crew chief and a great supporter. Since moving to Spokane, he has returned to racing and his friendly rivalry and competitive nature. They race for fun, no purse, and no glory. The number 9 car, now owned by Rod Forgo, was built in the mid-1970s. It was owned by friend John Kaiser in Salt Lake City area, who used to race it in the West Coast Vintage Racers. He sold the car last year to pursue a different car.
I started doing this in 1955. I started at a place called Haney Speedway in Burnaby, British Columbia. And, so, you know, I'm 80 years old now, so it's a fair while.
Why do this?
Well, it's like anything else. You get addicted. Got to go racing. Got to have a race car. That's why I still have a race car. I'm fortunate enough my wife allows me to have a race car, but she says if I didn't have a race car to work on, I'd drive her crazy. So it's like fishing. Some people want to go fishing. Some people want to go hunting. I like race cars.
And what brought you up here this weekend for this particular car?
A good friend of mine from Vernon, BC. He bought a car. He's new to the sport. We have a big vintage association going now just for vintage guys and vintage cars. And he just bought a car. He used to go to the races. He thought he'd like to try it, so he bought a car, and he wanted me to come up and kind of shake it down for him, just because he's brand new, and watch him what he's going to take it out on the track shortly, and I'll kind of keep an eye on him, and if I can help him anyway, fine and dandy. Well, I think it started probably back in the 20s. You know, they cut down those old Model Ts. There was a lot of guys up in the Calgary area were running those way back, and they had a circuit out of the northern states there, and they were running the sprint cars. So I can't really tell, because when I started, it was like in 1955, and we were running jalopies, you know, and then they graduated into super modifieds, and super modifieds are just another. A lot of them are sprint cars modified, you know, to run what we call super modifieds. It all just progressed, you know. Well, yeah, over in the east coast there, in the Midwest there, sprint car racing has been big forever and ever, and still is. You know, there's a dirt track for near every, just a few miles. I mean, I had a friend you probably know from Calgary, Alberta, moved back there. His name was Frank Weiss. He ran with us, and he went back there, and I ran into him a few years later. He says, man, oh man, if I'd have known, he says, I'd have been back here years ago. He says, I could travel 150 miles and have 6 racetracks to run. We're out here, we got to travel 1,000 miles to get 6 racetracks. So that's why it's so big back there.
person who wants to get into racing and they look at something like this, what would you tell them?
Buy one. Have fun. Got to start somewhere. Might as well start with a good car. You know, you can start out in a lot of people, and it's what they can afford. You know, I mean, they start out in these Hornets and hobby cars, and that's a great place to start. And then eventually, as they carry on, they move up. You know, it's the same as me. My first car was a 34 Ford, and then moved on up into super modifieds, they called them, and sprint cars, and yeah, front or rear.
Oh, that's all it is? Okay.
Yeah, and
Ralph races vintage in the summer and spends the winter cleaning the car to get ready for racing for the next season.